Hello there, my name is Melody and welcome back to another video after, is it 6 months since I last posted? Time flies by. Let me tell you why I haven't posted really before we get into the video. I feel like I don't have content that I want to upload. And because I don't have much content that I really do feel like uploading, I have been straying away from making videos, and also I don't feel as motivated to edit as I used to be. Regardless, I've gotten into a few things while I was away. I've been taking care of my health and my body way more than I used to. I've been working out consistently and I feel good and I feel healthy and I feel like my self-confidence is kind of improving along the way as well. And also, I've acquired a new hobby, which is sewing. You will probably see something on the channel as soon as I'm done editing, because I do have a video that is still being edited very slowly that should be out, but isn't, but will be. Apart from that, I have been venting out my creativity on TikTok, and TikTok will be right here on the screen if you want to go and follow that. I have been into cosplay again. Very silly cosplay, very closet cosplay. I will get into making costumes along the way. I do have certain things planned for either the near future or a further away future, but I'm working on something cosplay related at the moment, and I do have plans on working on more cosplay related things as time goes by, and hopefully those will be out here on the channel at some point. Anyway, what I'm really here to do today is to talk about something that has been getting a little bit of attention on my channel for a little bit of time, which is Danmei. If you've watched my previous video on Danmei, or even if you haven't, this one will be way better than the previous one. I became utterly obsessed with Danmei for a while, and I still adore the whole world of Danmei, and I'm still very much into it, but I have drifted away a little bit because I am back into anime. I keep going back and forth between certain things. For a while it was K-pop, and then I got into Danmei, and then from Danmei I got back into anime, and I feel like after anime I'll go back into Danmei. I am currently back into Attack on Titan, which I dropped off a few years ago, and I'm picking it up all over again, and I've been really into that. But regardless, I am here to talk about Danmei. And let's begin by explaining what Danmei is, because I'm not quite sure I explained in my last video. So Danmei is basically literature, novels written by Chinese authors, mostly for Chinese audiences, although a lot of us Westerners do consume it as well. And it is about gay couples and gay characters, and it messes around a lot with homosexuality, and it's gay. It's very gay, and it's lovely. I fell in love with a lot, well, not a lot, there's people who have read way more than I have. The ones that I'm going to talk about are the ones that I have read and that I do love. So keep in mind that I haven't read as much as other people, and I do have a lot in my to-read list that I may talk about in the future. So let's get something out of the way, like right now. I cry reading books, okay? I'm a crier, and I will bawl my eyes out if the book is sad enough. or even if it's not sad enough, I will bawl my eyes out, okay? So, with that out of the way, the reason why I got into Danmei, and I talked about it in the previous video, was because I got into this drama called The Untamed. And The Untamed is based on a novel called The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. And I did talk a little bit about it in the previous video because I was and still am obsessed with the characters and the world and all of it. There's not a single character in that novel and in that show that I can say I absolutely despise, although there's a few that are kind of close, but I feel like the way they were portrayed in the drama made me hate them a little less. Regardless, this novel has gotten so much attention. It has got a audio drama, a donghua, which is an animation. The donghua, the animation, has got two versions. It's got a main version, which is the actual story, and then there's a side version, which is a cute little chibi version. It's got a manhua, which is kind of like a manga version of it, like comics. And also, it's got the drama and the movies. There were talks of a third movie. I'm not quite sure that will happen, but I do know the manhua is still going, and the donghua is supposed to have at least one more season, but we'll see about that. Anyway, this novel is by an author whom I have been calling MXCX for a while, and I will not even try to pronounce her name because I will absolutely butcher it, and it will be on the screen along with the Chinese and Pinyin names of all the novels that I do talk about. So, Grandmaster was very enjoyable, and I consumed it very, very quickly. You see, this novel is about a main character who dies. And that's not even a spoiler because you already know. But it's about a main character, Wei Wuxian, who dies and gets reincarnated after 13 years. And he gets reincarnated into the body of a 20-something-year-old when he was supposed to be 30-something years old. So there's a lot going on. You learn that Wei Wuxian is not completely white nor completely black. He's kind of a gray character, and I feel like that's what really pulls me into these novels, because a lot of times these characters aren't completely white or completely black. They're in this gray zone that I feel is more accurate to an actual person than portraying them as completely white or completely black. So this novel, it flows very nicely, and the story is told in flashbacks. I feel like you can follow along very easily, and it's written in a very nice way, so I feel like you can keep up with it very nicely, and the characters are lovable. The characters are very lovable. You will utterly fall in love with them. There's so many adaptations of it because the characters are truly lovely, and you can pick it up in so many ways, and there's so much media going around on it. Fan-made things, there's official things, there's so much going on about it that you won't feel like you're starving at any point in your fandom life. So this one was the one that got me into Danmei and made me want to go and look for other things. And the one novel that I read right after was by the same author, but it was her third novel, which I realize now that perhaps I should have read her very first novel first, because her writing improved drastically from novel to novel. But regardless, I went in for her third novel, which is Heaven Official's Blessing. Now, this novel has been getting a lot of attention lately. It's got a manhua that you should absolutely check out if you're into comics and into manga. It's got one of the most beautiful art styles that I've ever seen in my years of manga and manhwa reading. It's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. Every single panel is gorgeous. You should really go and check it out. It's very accurate to the novel itself, so you won't be missing out on anything at all from the story so far. It's still ongoing, and it will be going for at least like another year or a few more years. I'm not quite sure, but it's ongoing. This novel has also been turned into a donghua, which is also gorgeous. It's beautiful. You should go and check it out as well if you're not as much into reading, or if you want to check out other media before you commit to the novel. You see, this novel is a tearjerker at certain parts. I think it's book 2 and book 4. Book 1 is fine. You're fine reading book 1. I think it's either 2 or 3, but I cried like actual tears at the very end of the novel. I just thought of it and I'm still kind of choked up. It's been months since I've read this, and every time I think of it, I still get choked up. So this novel is about a man who cultivates into godhood 3 times. And the 3rd time is honestly the funniest. He's a beautiful character, beautifully developed, and his story will make you think a lot. And that's also why I really did fall in love with this one. This one is my favorite one out of all her 3 novels. And the reason why I love it so much is because of this main character, who again is not completely white or completely black. He's still in this kind of gray zone. And also the love interest. I just absolutely adore their dynamics, and the love interest is utterly in love with this main character, but he's also extremely respectful of his personal space and what he's okay with and what he's not okay with, and going at his own pace and letting him do what he really wants to do. Even if he doesn't agree with it, he will still be there to support him, and not in a sense of just catching him when he falls, in the sense of really supporting him when he falls. And I feel like that's why I just adore their dynamics so much. In this novel, I failed to say that the first novel had sex scenes. This 3rd novel doesn't have sex scenes anymore. There's mentionings of things, but there's not actual sex scenes. Again, this novel has very lovable side characters, and even the villains are kind of lovable, and I don't think you can hate anyone in this novel. I mean, you can, but I don't think I hated anyone in this novel, and I feel like a lot of the characters are also in that gray zone, and there's no completely black or completely white. And also, I think that's what really attracts me to this novel. The grayness of everything, and the flow of everything. Again, this is a novel that goes back and forth between the present and the past, and you're told the backstory of certain characters, and you fail to know the backstory of other characters. I'm looking at you, MXCX. I still need that Hua Chong backstory. Okay? I need it. Okay? I need it. Regardless, this one is a novel that I absolutely do recommend. Please go check it out. So the 3rd novel that I read was this author's first novel. I went all over the place with her novels, which was Scum Villain's Self-Saving System. And this novel is ridiculous. But it's so enjoyable. It's ridiculous and enjoyable. So you get this guy who was obsessed with an online novel that had been going on for years. He gets so mad with the ending of that sad novel that he has like a heart attack or something and he dies. Right? He dies and he gets transmigrated into the world of that said novel. And he lands into the body of the villain. Hence why it's called Scum Villain's self-saving system. So this world acts kind of like a game in which he has a system talking to him, and he earns points for every action, and he can alter the story as he goes. And this is one of the funniest novels that I have read so far, and it's really enjoyable, and all the characters are lovely, and there's not a single character that you won't fall in love with. I personally am utterly in love with a side character that gets zero attention, and it's one of the things that saddens me the most is the fact that this character gets so little attention. Regardless, I also I am in love with the side ship that has been getting more attention but doesn't get many mentions in the novel itself. Scum Villain has sex scenes. Regardless, this novel in particular has got an ongoing adaptation, which is the Donghua, which is in a 3D style that I thought was going to kind of push me away, but it's actually rather enjoyable regardless. And the main character is just so funny that you will enjoy it regardless of it being 3D or not. And also, it had a manhwa going on that had 1 or 2 chapters and it was dropped. Not quite sure what's going on with that, if they will pick it back up or not, but yeah, that's that. After this one, I went in for a novel that I thought wasn't going to be that bad. It's called Husky and His White Cat Shizun, commonly known as Ra. And let me kind of tell you the story. So there's this dude who is a cultivator, and he cultivates into an emperor. He's the most powerful dude out there through questionable methods and cruel methods, and he dies. But when he dies, he goes back into the body of his 16-year-old self, if I'm not mistaken, and he relives his story, but changes his story along the way. I'm not gonna tell you much of it because there's a lot going on, and there's absolutely ridiculous parts in this novel that made me question what I was reading. But regardless, it's a very enjoyable novel, and it's got an enjoyable story, and the plot itself is very enjoyable. I've said enjoyable like 5 times in a row, but that's what it is. It's very enjoyable. I'm not gonna tell you that it's the best written novel that I've ever read, but there's very beautiful parts in it. And this one, I talked about it at the end of the previous video about Danmei, and I told you that I had cried rivers. And when I tell you I cried rivers, I am not joking. I sobbed. I ugly cried. This novel was terrible. Terrible. It made me cry so much. It was awful. And I thought people were being dramatic about it before I picked it up, but it turns out they were not. If you can read this novel without shedding a single tear, I think you might be broken inside. This one is very heavy on the sex scenes. I cried even reading a sex scene. So, for you to understand the level of heartbreak this novel contains, I cried reading a sex scene. Like, let that sink in. Okay, let that sink in. Anyway, This novel has a drama on the way that seems like it's going to be very enjoyable. I am very sad that they changed the gender of one of the characters, who is kind of a main side character, and they are originally a man in the novel, but they changed them into a female in the drama, which I was very sad about because I was really looking forward to see which actor they would put playing that particular character, but it is what it is. I think I've heard talks of a manhwa, but I can't confirm anything, and you might have to look that up yourself. Oh, I forgot to mention that this novel was by Meatbun Doesn't Eat Meat or something like that, but they are commonly known as Meatbun. So the next novel that I picked up was a novel that I picked up after I watched the drama. So it's called Guardian, and there's a drama on it. And I watched the drama first, and the drama is very enjoyable. Again, we're back at enjoyable. It's very funny, okay? I laughed so much during that drama until I reached the end, in which I bawled my eyes out. Regardless, it's a very funny drama. At the beginning, it kind of gets halfway and it gets kind of sad, but the whole of the drama itself is very funny, and the characters are very funny, and they're very lovely and lovable, and I guarantee you will love certain characters with your whole heart. Guardian is about a police officer. He's kind of a police officer who deals with supernatural cases. So we're back at this kind of cultivation world. It's not exactly cultivation, it's kind of like mystical powers and supernatural things. It's a supernatural world. So he deals with supernatural cases that have no explanation for people that don't deal with supernatural things, and he can solve because he's got this other sensibility that they don't have. So he meets the love interest, who is a very powerful being, and there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on in the novel, but it's rather short, and you read it very quickly as well. And there's things that they changed in the drama, so if you watch the drama first, you will see a lot of differences in the novel. This novel doesn't have explicit sex scenes. I think all of Priest's novels don't have sex scenes in them. There's a lot of sexual tension, but there's no actual sex scenes. Ever since I got into Danmei, I had heard of Priest, and I wanted to pick up a Priest novel. Priest has a very large number of novels because I think Priest has been writing for quite a few years. They are one of the big authors in the Danmei community, along with MXCX, I feel like. So this was the first novel that I picked up by Priest. After that, I picked up the one novel that made me stop reading Danmei for a while, and it's not because I hated it, it's because I loved it so much that anything that I looked at after this felt like it would not come any close to what this novel was. So it's called Little Mushroom. It's by an author that I tried to translate their name on Google Translate, and it came out as 14 Continents. They're called Ishizizo. Pardon me for the pronunciation. It's gonna be on the screen. And there's an audio drama happening right now. It's coming out right now. So this novel is about a post-apocalyptic world in which there's very little human population left in the world because humans messed up the world in such a way that they created very nasty creatures that go after them and try to eat them. So the main character is a mushroom. Quite literally a mushroom who consumed a human being and therefore turned into a human being himself with the ability of going back into his mushroom form. So this little mushroom loses his spore and he goes to a human base to get it back. And there he meets the love interest. There's a lot going on. And this is one of the most beautiful novels that I've read so far. And that's why I'm so iffy about picking up another novel, because I am still utterly in love with this novel. And the way it's written, the way it makes you think, the way things are portrayed, and the way you get carried through the story, through the eyes of a being that isn't human, but learns the human ways along the way and sees things in a completely different way from a human being. And it's just, this novel is just, I really wish this novel got more attention for what it is. If none of the others, then please do check this one out. Keep in mind, it's kind of graphic here and there, and it talks about monsters that are very ugly, but it's a post-apocalyptic world, so also keep that in mind. This one doesn't have any explicit sex scenes. They're not exactly explicit, they're kind of, you understand what's going on, but it's not in the actual novel itself, it's in the extras. You're good if you don't want that. So these are all the novels that I have read so far. I tried to pick up another priest novel after Little Mushroom. I tried to pick up Silent Reading, and I read 2 chapters, I think, or 1.5 chapters, I'm not sure. And then I kind of dropped it, but not in the sense that I'm not going back to it. I dropped it because I moved to something else and put that on hold. Like I said, Little Mushroom kind of did it for me, you know? Little Mushroom was so good that I wonder if any other novel will get to that level. And that's why I've been kind of putting Danmei on hold for a little bit, because I was so in love and am still so in love with Little Mushroom. So that's it for all the novels that I've read so far, and I hope this was, I don't know, I hope you learned a little bit, and I hope you got interested a little bit. And I do recommend all of them. There's not a single one that I don't recommend. And I do have a to-read list that I may share if you want to see that. My social media is down in the description. I don't use my main Twitter. I use my side account, which will be up on the screen. And I have also, like I mentioned, been venting a lot of my creativity onto TikTok. So if you're into TikTok or if you want to go and check it out, go ahead. Instagram as well. I'm active on Instagram. If you read Danmei and you're watching this video, go ahead and leave down in the comments any suggestion that you may have. And if you have read Little Mushroom and you have read another novel that goes up to that level, down in the comments, please. Go tell me down in the comments. Anyway, I'm gonna end this video for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry for such a long video, but there will be timestamps along the video for you to go back and forth between the novels if you want that. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you're able to find a novel or a book that makes you enjoy reading, because reading is one of the best experiences in the world. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and yeah, bye!